reaching for the dawn. I know alone that I will falter. With a good friend near me, I will carry on. There is a kindness in your smile and a gentleness within your speech. You reassure me, your love surrounds me. I know safety is at last within my reach. Will you come with me on this journey? Every breath we take, reaching for the dawn. I know alone that I will falter. With a good friend near me, I will carry on. Is an illusion we carry with us as we wade on through the waters of our lives, that we must be strong and hold our own dear. But a helping hand will save us by and by. Will you come with me on this journey? Every breath we take, keep reaching for the dawn. I know alone that I will falter. With a good friend near me, I will carry on. With a good friend near me, I will carry on.
Good morning, South Church. Thanks for inviting me into your home this morning. I'd like to share an invocation with you. It's new. New music is being written right now for this time that we are living in. It's called In These Hard Times, There Will Always Be Music. We're going to add some verses. Friendship, yoga, that's my word. Then I'm going to point to you and ask you to add a word. What will there always be during hard times? Then we'll sing about South Church, and we'll end with singing. Music, friendship, yoga, your choice, South Church, and then singing. Here we go. In these hard times, there will always be music. Always be music in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be music. Always be music in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be friendship. Always be friendship in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be friendship. Always be friendship in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be yoga. Always be yoga in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be yoga. Always be yoga in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be. In these hard times, in these hard times, there will always be. In these hard South Church, in these hard times, there will always be South Church. Always be South Church in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be South Church. Always be South Church in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing. Always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing. Always be singing in these these hard times.
Welcome to Virtual South Church. Here in our religious community, we are trying to stay connected, to be with one another in whatever ways that we can. In our solitude, let us remember one another and help each other and hold each other close to heart. My name is Arthur Eves, and I am one of a team of worship associates who are blessed to serve you at South Church. A special thanks this week goes out to Kirsten Hunter, Jennifer Layden, Jen Doldeo, Joanne Connolly, South Church Folk, and Reverend Susan, and many others behind the scenes who have worked so hard to prepare this service. The times, they are a-changing, and we are adapting. And now, let us pause for a moment to share announcements of what continues to go on at South Church.
Shared Ministry is extending their recruitment period for the Associate Program. If you're interested in the Fellowship or Worship Associate programs, both invaluable programs, please call Jennifer and she will have someone contact you with more information. Everything is blooming, even the blooms for the Pocket Garden Tour. Go to the Pocket Garden Tour page on the South Church website and purchase a bloom for $25. Blooms get your name and a message in the tour brochure as a supporter of the 31st Annual Pocket Garden Tour.
As you use, we recognize 6 sources of wisdom that inform our living tradition. Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. The words and deeds of prophetic women and men who challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us. As you use, we recognize 6 sources of wisdom that inform our living tradition. Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. The words and deeds of prophetic women and men, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. And humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. And spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. At this time, we can turn to these sources and also nurture our own individual insights as we try to make sense of this presence and a future now fraught with hidden peril. Certainly, COVID-19 has served as a grim reminder of how connected we all are to one another and the importance of right relationships. It has also given me more time in solitude. As an introvert, that's where I'm most comfortable, but I'm also a communitarian. My future depends on our future. Wisdom suggests we approach anxiety and uncertainty in faith, not a Pollyannish faith that everything will turn out fine or a Panglossian one in which this is the best of all possible worlds, but one based in reality that recognizes our limits but refuses to engage with fear-mongering. If we are to find our way out of this, it will be because we keep our heads, our hearts, and our efforts positively focused on achieving the best outcomes possible. This means we take care of ourselves and do what we can to reach out and connect to our neighbors and loved ones We know that anxiety has a negative impact on executive functioning and learning, so whatever we can do to lessen our own anxiety helps. A little faith and collaborative action can accomplish miracles. Take care of yourself, and let's act together to come out better and stronger as a community on the other side of this. And now for our chalice lighting. We all share in the light, and many of us are lighting our own chalices at home. If you don't have one, you can make one easily with a teacup or flower pot. As we find ways of being together in this shared light, let us share in the wisdom of these words from mid-20th century theologian Paul Tillich. Our language has wisely sensed the two sides of being alone. It has created the word loneliness to express the pain of being alone, and it has created the word solitude to express the glory. May we all share in holy solitude at this time and reach out when we need to feel connection. Let us not turn social distancing into social isolation and loneliness. And now let us affirm our mission statement, reciting together. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, and we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community.
Hi, everybody. This is your trusty religious education staff on hand today. Again, it's Kirsten Hunter and Jen Del Deo, or is she over here? Jen Del Deo.
Yeah.
We're going to be telling you a story, a Time for All Ages story today that was written by Jen Del Deo just for our South Church community. And yes, we're so happy to be with everybody. Good morning. So take it away, Jen.
Okay, I love stories that start with once upon a time, so that's how this one starts. Once upon a time, there was a town where the children were strange. They would go outside and they would do ridiculous things like somersaults and cartwheels. They'd climb trees and rocks. They would take their shoes off and walk across logs and wade in little streams. They spun around and around, and they loved the feel of mud. The grown-ups in this town were sure that the children were damaging their fragile little bodies. They would say, "Stop cartwheeling, you'll scramble your brain." And "Don't climb that, you'll break every one of your bones." And "Don't touch that mud, you'll get sick. Put your shoes on, you'll get frostbite and your feet will fall right off."
Well, the children thought the grown-ups were ridiculous and did not believe them. It was kind of a problem. The grown-ups got frustrated enough that they decided they would use science to prove to the children that they were damaging their fragile selves. So a team of very smart scientists got to work. They used their fancy science tools and they measured and tested. They plugged things into other things. They studied and observed. They collected data and they analyzed. When the scientists looked at the results, they thought they had done something wrong in their sciencing. So they got a fresh batch of scientists together to try again. This team did their testing and found the same results that the first team had. Both groups of scientists found that the children's bodies were not damaged by the tumbling and twirling and spinning and climbing and barefooting.
But that wasn't even the most surprising part. The most surprising part was that the children's bodies actually needed all of these activities to grow and be healthy and strong. All this time, the grown-ups had been trying to stop the children from doing the things that science proved they actually needed to do. When the scientists told all the other grown-ups in the town what they had discovered, the grown-ups were truly amazed. "Our children are geniuses! They're smarter than we are. Let's be like them and make ourselves stronger and healthier." So they went out and they tried to do cartwheels and climb and spin and tumble. and it didn't go well. There were tweaked necks and jarred heads and fractured hips and cramped toes. In addition to being in pain, the grown-ups were quite confused. They went back to the children. Tell us, young, brilliant ones, how do you know what your bodies need, and how do we learn about ours? Please, please, enlighten us.
The answer for the children was easy. We just do what feels right. This didn't help. It didn't make sense. The grown-ups furrowed their brows and scrunched up their faces. We don't understand. Break it down for us, like we're 100 years old. And the littlest kid said, follow me, and led everyone to the town park. And she borrowed her mom's phone and started playing a song on it. Close your eyes, turn off your brain, and let your body do its thing. The music flowed out of the phone, and soon the people started to move. And it was different for each one. Some swayed, some wiggled, some jumped or shook or twisted or flailed. They all smiled, each and every one, because it felt good, and they were hearing what their own bodies needed.
After they had danced for a long while, all the people were hungry. The children said, now our bodies need food. Let's have a candy buffet for lunch. And even though the adults weren't too sure about this idea, they were still so awed by the kids' wisdom that they agreed to it. It tasted great, but you can probably imagine what happened next. There were belly aches and grouchies, and their bodies didn't feel good at all. So after that, the kids and the grown-ups worked together to help themselves and each other to listen to their inner wisdom, to take care of their bodies and hearts and spirits, and all was well. And remember that all of you know how to listen to your own wisdom, to know what you need right now.
Yeah, and we miss you. Keep listening and keep telling us how you are, and we'll see you soon.
In the face of this crisis, many people who provide personal services or entertainment have not been able to work. Those who are a paycheck away from disaster are already there. This month, we are sharing the plate with Women Aid, a lender of last resort for women in crisis. Please give generously if you are able. And if there are ways, large or small, that you have been able to help others during this time, feel free to post them in the chat window. Sharing successes and failures can help us all learn how best to function in this new world. Our pastoral associates and wider network are eager to hear you and to assist. You can reach them through the church office by calling 603-436-4762 or email info@southchurch-uu.org.
Put compassion in your from love, come from love, come from love. We let our fear get in the way, it blocks us from finding that it's okay. If we open a door and inquire, we can halt the quagmire. I'm from love, I'm from love, I'm from love. You cannot know what it's all about, so give them the benefit of the doubt. Recognize when ego's in the way, and allow them the words they need to say. I'm from love, I'm from love, I'm from love. Put compassion in your heart. It's the best place to start. I'm from love, I'm from love, I'm from love. Put aside what you think it should be, and listen to the other very carefully. Active listening is what we need for communication to succeed. I'm from love, I'm from love, I'm from love. All people need love, come from love, it can heal. Start with yourself, love is what's real. I'm from love, I'm from love, I'm from love. Put compassion in your heart. It's the best place to start.
Oh, good morning, everybody. It's so great to be with you. It is sad not to be able to see your faces right in front of me, but I know you're there and you know I'm here. And one day we'll be off of this virtual way of being together and we can meet one another in person. So I'd like to lead us for a moment of meditation and of prayer. So I'd ask you to take a moment to center yourself, put your feet firmly on the ground, sit up straight, ground yourself in the beingness of the people around you and of yourself. Breathe, 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 breathe. Gently breathe. And with intention, take a moment to center yourself. Perhaps this has been the very first time this week that you've taken moments of quiet, and you need them and you deserve them. So take a moment of quiet and center down, and let me lead us in prayerful thoughts. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, we are grateful for all that we have. All that we have, we are so filled with appreciation to have this virtual community, dedicated staff, capable board, engaging worship, leaders, talented, creative musicians. And let that gratitude fill us and be stronger than our fears. Let us let go of fear. Let us let go of uncertainty. Let us go of anxiousness. Remember, we are not alone. We are not alone. We are just one voice away from one another, one voice away from those who care for us. Lift the burden that is heavy on our hearts, on our shoulders, all that we've been carrying this last week. Lift it and let us be grateful. Let us be grateful. Fill our heart with gratitude, with appreciation, with thankfulness. Spring is here. Nature is awakening in all its glory. Songbirds sing. And we are so glad that we can be together in this community. And I pray that you and your family, your loved ones are well and that you stay well. Be assured that we are here for you, that in gentle love, we are here. We are here for you. Be still. We are here. In the name of all that is special, holy, and blessed, may it be so. May it be so. Blessed be.
Good morning, South Church. From my home to your homes, it's good to be with you. I hope you're doing well and keeping your spirits up during these strange and difficult times. I'm here at my kitchen table. I've long maintained that life happens around the kitchen table, so why not a sermon? Rather like a fairy tale, this begins with innocence and what feels like a long, long time ago, and offers some ordinary wisdom. It was the summer of 1981. The one some of you may remember was embossed by the wedding of Prince Charles and Princess Diana. I was 16, fresh off a reluctant year in boarding school in Connecticut and spending the summer in Toronto, Ontario, where my parents now lived, my father having taken a job as a vice president of the Canadian division of the Wheelabrator Corporation. And it was at Wheelabrator that my father had arranged for my first summer job as a typist filling in engineering forms. Weekday mornings, my father and I would commute outside the city to the surrounding flatlands. I can still recall traveling along the Beltway beside Lake Ontario, accompanied by Beethoven's majestically commanding Symphony No. 5, and when the wind was in the wrong direction, the overpowering stench of the slaughterhouses. I also recall the headaches I developed from the tedium and mounting pressure I felt in trying to keep up with the ever-renewing pile of engineering forms on my desk. I need to pause here to tell you a bit about my father. My father, born in Scotland and educated in England until he was 12 when he came to the States during World War II, was upbeat, confident, and remarkably bright. He had an agile mind, quick wit and ready laugh, an energetic step, and a propensity to whistle. A youthful spirit, he was game for things and brought to them an irreverent sense of fun. His English degree and MBA from Harvard spoke to his range. He ran companies and also read novels and went to the symphony and the theater and art museums. Being his own man, an independent thinker and a bit of a maverick, he needed the institutions he functioned within to give him some latitude. This could rub some people the wrong way, even more so because he did not suffer fools and used humor to puncture pretension. As you may be able to tell, I admired him immensely. Among the many things I loved about my father was his capacity to scale things to a manageable size. In that spirit, the summer I worked at Wheeler-Brader, he looked to jolly me along by spooking me from around corners at work and sending me out for fresh air and sunshine in the barren corporate scape in an effort to relieve my stress. I still remember his telling me that life would go on without Wheeler-Brader. His shorthand to help me distinguish between what was urgent, the relentless engineering forms, and what was important, managing stress. His way of teaching my overly conscientious 16-year-old self about what really mattered and didn't matter in the grand scheme of life. Life would go on without Wheeler-Brader, a useful reminder to this day. My father scaled things for me in a similar fashion when I was in my early 20s and had been fired, after a double shift, I might add, from my job as a waitress at a golf club in Colorado for a bad attitude. Traveling the Far East with my brother, my father sent me a postcard. "Dear Bex," he wrote, "I heard you and the golf club parted ways, not of your own volition. Ain't no shame in it. Happens to the best of us, though it's more fun to quit. Just remember, you're British and born in wedlock. It will see you through." And thus my father from across the world, with a light touch and the perspective of his years, brought my youthful, injured pride back down to size. Humor was my father's great leveler, perspective his gift, his ability to identify what really mattered. And in both instances in my life, it helped me to carry on. I finished out the summer working at Wheeler-Brader, and a few months after being fired in Colorado, I got my first teaching job in England. All of this is innocent stuff in the face of what we are up against now. But still, I return to my father's lessons at a time when I am sorely in need of them, and can only conjure them from memory since he's been gone now for over half my life, having died in 1992 at the age of 64 of prostate cancer. I miss the way my father leavened hard moments with humor, the way he made me laugh, the way my daughter still makes me laugh, the kind of laughter that is consuming and undoing and that loses track of what triggered it. Aside from relieving stress and boosting the immune system, laughter lets us reclaim territory from all that is scary, injurious, and beyond our control. It busts up the tense moment, leaving calm in its wake. And more important, it connects us to the shared joy of being alive. Right now, we need to reclaim territory from all that is scary and beyond our control, and figure out how to carry on. How best to take care of ourselves and each other. Our own Jennifer Leyden makes a wonderful point about the problem with the term social distancing. As she points out, while we are needing to maintain distance from each other physically for health reasons, socially, we need each other. Already we have realized how hard it is to stay apart, to not congregate in cafes and restaurants, attend concerts and sporting events, go to church, temple, or mosque, see our work colleagues and school friends. We have, as we know, a desire to be together, to talk face to face, break bread, and celebrate life's important passages, to kiss and hug and hold each other's hands, to be comforted by the presence of another human being. And we are reminded of the terrible toll of isolation and loneliness that exists for so many and which will only be exacerbated now. We need each other. We need each other to be kind and considerate, to take only what we need at the grocery store and the pharmacy, to be patient as we adjust to and try to process this new, hard reality, to be compassionate in our understanding and actions because so many will suffer. And we need to mitigate panic and fear. Panic undermines our own best interests, like the drowning person who, in a panic, may accidentally drown the person who is trying to save them. And fear, as we know, debilitates, bypassing our prefrontal cortex where logical and creative thinking happen, and going directly to our amygdala, the seat of instinct and emotion. Fear narrows our vision and reduces our choices to fight, flight, or freeze. We react instead of think, which is useful when we are in short-term acute danger, but not when we're dealing with long-term problems. And we know the damage that ongoing stress does to our mental and physical health. So while there's reason to double down with seriousness and vigilance, to feel the need to check and recheck for the latest grim update on our smartphones, to stay informed, it's also important to take breaks. After all, how kind and considerate are we able to be of one another when we are stretched and strained? And as we've always known, stress, anxiousness, and constant busyness do not contribute to our best thinking nor our best selves. And creative solutions don't come to us when we're slogging away or being reactive. They come to us when we've taken a break, gone for a walk, taken a shower, had a nap, allowed things to come into better perspective. My father might suggest going for a swim. After he left Wheelabrator, my father went to work at the boarding school Tabor Academy, where he ran the school's finances. Tabor is located in Marion, Massachusetts, along lovely Buzzards Bay down near the Cape. And my father, who valued balance and looked to work smart and not just hard, had the good sense to recognize that when the tide was high in the summertime, he went for a swim, even in the middle of a workday. And so he would leave the confines of his office with its narrowing concerns and head to Silver Shell, a slice of beach that looks out on a glorious expanse of the bay, dotted with sailboats stretching across to Cape Cod. The view alone, one I know so well and never tire of, would serve to broaden his perspective, give him room to breathe, and clear his head. Submerging himself in the swimmable water would cleanse and refresh him, and the whole experience would lengthen his pace to the slower rhythms of natural time. Going for a swim at high tide, or whatever its equivalent might be for you, helps keep things in perspective. It is an exercise in the humbling understanding that very often things don't fall apart without us. It is the belief that stepping away can make us better at what we return to. And it is the practice of grabbing the good moment, not letting it get lost in the business of busyness. This practice added to the measure of my father's happiness in what he did not know would be the last 10 years of his life. None of us can afford to let such good moments pass us by, no matter how much time we think we have left, and no matter why we think we have no time for them. So thank God for sunshine and warmer weather, the chance for a walk, some sensory pleasure out in the natural world that is prepping for bloom. Thank God for Italians singing together on their balconies. Poet Greg Orr offers this reminder in his poem, To Be Alive. To be alive, not just the carcass, but the spark. That's crudely put, but if we're not supposed to dance, why all this music? We need to say yes. Yes to all that is life-affirming. And in the midst of losing so much, we need to know what to hold on to, how to ground ourselves in the longer view of what is important, how to find ballast. My father's ability to identify what mattered was shaped in part, I believe, by his study of literature. His reading provided him with enriching company, a broader perspective, and a digested view on the human condition. Like other British schoolboys of his era, he carried in his memory a repertoire of bits and bobs from English literature that he was inclined to quote. His favorite poem was Rudyard Kipling's If, which offers a boy advice about how to become a man. The poem begins this way. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. The poem goes on in this fashion, describing the level-headed navigation of an even-keeled course, not overly swayed by others, and with a willingness to keep trying. It is a poem about wisdom, a touchstone for how to proceed amidst life's pressures. And it speaks to how my father looked to navigate his life with perspective and the modulating influence of humor. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. Greg Orr speaks of the value of poetry as a way to shape chaos into order, to make something of our experience. When you're a victim, Orr says, you're a passive experiencer of whatever it is that's happened. But to turn your world into words and then shape them, that is to become an active soul, a term he borrows from Ralph Waldo Emerson. This, Orr notes, is equally true when we're reading poems. When we're reading poems, he continues, when we're listening to songs, we're looking for the things that will sustain us, trying to find what it is that is true and deep and sustaining to our spirits and the dignity of our own world, he says. Emerson described this process as making our own Bibles, to, as Orr puts it, shake and sustain our spirits. This is a time for us to know how to sustain our spirits, to be active souls. It may not be poetry, but it should be something deeply nourishing that can buffer us from reactivity and keep us aligned with what is most important. It's a time to lower the temperature whenever possible with humor and respite, to take breaks from the avalanche of bad news and the relentless pace of life in order to gain perspective, to seek wisdom and not just information. And it is a time to grab good moments that remind us what to cherish. A few months before my father died of cancer, he was admitted into the emergency room for a blood transfusion, a sort of last-ditch effort in his fight. I remember standing distraught at the foot of his hospital bed, holding on to his socked foot. "I'll leave you the sock in my will," my father joked. And there he was again, with his humor, lightening a hard moment and helping me to carry on. Let's all do what we can to help each other carry on. May it be so.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
It has been good to be home here together. I invite you now to reach out in your mind and heart to all those in our good South Church community, all who you love, nearby and far away, and all those in need in the world. And here to close are some words from E.E. Cummings. Love is the voice under all silences, the hope which has no opposite in fear, the strength so strong, mere force is feebleness, the truth more first than sun, more last than star. May we go in kindness, peace, and good health.
Go in beauty.